First contact and initial conflict. The void between stars had never felt so empty to Admiral Lazarus Chen as he stood on the observation deck of the UES Defiance. Gazing out at the distant pinpricks of light, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching humanity from those cold depths. Intelligence reports had been filtering in for months now. Entire civilizations going dark, distress signals abruptly cutting off, and refugee ships arriving with tales of unstoppable predators. "Admiral, we've received another transmission from the Centauri Coalition," Commander Sophia Rice said, approaching with a datapad. "3 more systems have gone silent." Chen accepted the pad with a grim nod. "And their trajectory? If they maintain their current course and speed," Rice hesitated, "they'll reach Sol in approximately 6 months." The Valkyrie, even their name inspired dread across 17 star systems. Evolved from apex predators on a death world, they had developed not just intelligence, but retained their predatory instincts, enhanced by biotechnology that had turned their bodies and ships into living weapons. Each conquest merely fueled their next, consuming resources and sometimes entire populations to feed their ever-growing fleet. Aboard the Valkyrie command vessel Inevitable Consumption, war primate Krex stood with his massive clawed hands clasped behind his back. His yellow eyes, with vertical pupils, focused on the holographic display of the solar system they would soon raid. The primitive blue-green world third from its sun had caught his attention. "Tell me about this planet," he commanded, his voice a low rumble that vibrated the chitin-reinforced walls of the command center. Hunt second Vrel approach, her smaller frame still imposing by any non-Valkyrie standard, designated Earth by its inhabitants, species, human. Technological assessment, pre-stellar maturity. They've established rudimentary colonies on their moon and neighboring planet, but their defenses are minimal, primarily projectile weapons and chemical propellants. Krex's lips pulled back in what passed for a smile among his kind, revealing rows of serrated teeth. Hardly worth the effort. Send a single hunt cluster to assess their resistance and prepare for harvest. On Earth, the United Defense Council convened in the underground facility beneath Geneva. Representatives from every major nation sat around a circular table, faces illuminated by the glow of displays showing the approaching threat. Dr. Eliza Nakamura, head of xenobiology, stood to address the council. "The Valkyrie are unlike any threat we've encountered. Based on data shared by the Centauri refugees, they're effectively living weapons. Their ships are biological constructs, part machine and part organism. They don't just conquer, they consume." General Hakeem Washington leaned forward. "What about weaknesses? Everything has a weakness. Their biology is their strength, but also potentially their vulnerability," Nakamura replied. "They've evolved for predation, not defense. Their immune systems are highly specialized for their home environment. And their ships, being partially biological, might be susceptible to targeted biological or electromagnetic countermeasures." Admiral Chen, joining via secure link from the Defiance, spoke up. "Then we prepare accordingly. Project Chimera needs to be accelerated, and Operation Scorched Earth is now authorized." 3 months later, humanity had its first contact with the Valkyrie when a Hunt cluster of 5 bioships entered the outer solar system, bypassing the early warning systems placed near Pluto's orbit. The ships moved with unsettling organic fluidity, their hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns as they approached the Mars colony. The colony, appearing vulnerable with its transparent domes and exposed infrastructure, continued its normal operations even as the alien vessels approached. No evacuation was attempted, no defensive measures visibly deployed. Hunt leader Sevik watched with growing anticipation. These humans show no signs of preparing for battle. Begin the harvest approach. As the Valkyrie ships entered Mars orbit, they deployed smaller hunter craft, biomechanical pods containing warriors ready to begin the culling process. The first pods breached the colony's main dome, creating a controlled decompression that would incapacitate but not kill the inhabitants. The Valkyrie preferred live harvesting. What greeted them inside was not panicked colonists, but empty corridors and silent quarters. Sevik, leading the ground team personally, felt his predatory instincts heighten. Something was wrong. Life signs, he demanded from his sensory technician. Scattered readings, possibly automated systems, the technician replied, confusion evident in her voice. Wait, detecting an unusual energy signature building throughout the colony infrastructure. In that moment, the Mars colony revealed its true purpose. What appeared to be a vulnerable settlement was in fact an elaborate trap. The walls contained specialized emitters that activated simultaneously, bombarding the Malkari with precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses that disrupted their neural systems and the biological components of their technology. Sevik collapsed to his knees, feeling his nervous system misfire as his warriors fell around him. Through blurred vision, he saw armored figures emerge from hidden compartments, humans in sealed combat suits entirely protected from the effects targeting Malkari biology. Back on Earth, Dr. Maya Patel watched the feed from the Mars operation in the Pentagon's command center. The neural disruptors are working perfectly, she reported. Their bioelectrical systems are completely vulnerable to the targeted EMP frequency we developed. General Washington nodded. Launch Phase 2. Let's show these predators what happens when they hunt us. In orbit around Mars, the remaining Malkari ships suddenly found themselves surrounded as seemingly innocent satellites and debris revealed themselves to be disguised weapon platforms. Specialized missiles carrying engineered bacteriophages attached to the bioships' hulls, injecting tailored pathogens that began breaking down the organic components that regulated the vessel's functions. Aboard the inevitable consumption, war primate Krex received the distress signals from the hunting party with disbelief. Impossible, he snarled, smashing a control panel with one massive fist. They're primitive. They shouldn't have countermeasures. The hunt cluster has been lost. Hunt Second Vril reported, her usual composure shaken. The humans, they were waiting for us. They had prepared specifically for our biology. Krex's predatory instincts shifted from hunger to caution. In all their conquests, no species had ever anticipated their methods so precisely. No prey had ever turned the hunt against them. Recall all forward elements, he ordered. We will approach this differently. These humans require special attention. On the Defiance, Admiral Chen received the news of the successful Mars operation with grim satisfaction. They'll be back, he stated flatly, and in greater numbers. But now, they know what we're capable of. Now they know that on Earth, the prey fights back. Commander Reyes nodded. Project Chimera is proceeding ahead of schedule. The retrofits to the fleet will be complete within 60 days. Make it 30, Chen replied. And inform the Council. Operation Nemesis is now our priority. If the Malkari want to play the role of apex predators, it's time they learn there's always a bigger fish. As the Malkari fleet regrouped at the edge of the solar system, humanity prepared for the real battle ahead. For the first time in their conquering history, the Malkari found themselves experiencing an unfamiliar sensation. Uncertainty. These humans, despite their technological limitations, had done something unprecedented. They had studied their enemy, anticipated their methods, and developed targeted countermeasures before the first attack even came. In the vast predatory hierarchy of the galaxy, a new truth was emerging. Humans were not just prey with teeth. They were hunters who had mastered the art of playing prey, and that made them more dangerous than any species the Malkari had ever encountered. Turning the tide. The Malkari Grand Conclave convened in the pulsating heart chamber of the inevitable consumption. 60 hunt leaders from across their fleet gathered around war primate Krex, their collective agitation evident in the way their scaled skin shifted colors from dominant green to wary amber. This has never happened, snarled hunt leader Drex, one of the oldest and most decorated warriors. No species has ever repelled even a scouting party, let alone inflicted casualties. War primate Krex paced the perimeter of the organic chamber, his massive form casting shadows across the assembled leaders. These humans are different. They did not merely defend. They anticipated. They prepared. Hunt Second for All stepped forward, her tone measured despite the gravity of her words. Our intercepted communications suggest they've been studying us for years. They recovered debris from our conquests in the Centauri systems, analyzed our biological weaknesses, and developed targeted countermeasures before we even knew of their existence. Impossible, another hunt leader hissed. They're barely beyond their own atmosphere. How could they have intelligence networks spanning systems? That is precisely what makes them dangerous, Krex replied, stopping his pacing to face the assembly. They appear primitive, but their development curve is unlike any species we've encountered. They build alliances. They share knowledge. Where we evolved to be perfect individual predators, they evolved to function as a coordinated pack. The implications settled heavily on the assembly. For millennia, the Malkari had relied on evolutionary superiority. Stronger, faster, with built-in biological weapons and predatory instincts sharpened across generations of hunting. But these humans had demonstrated something else entirely. The ability to pool knowledge, to learn from others' defeats, and to prepare for threats they had never directly encountered. Then we will crush them with overwhelming force, Drex declared. Send the entire Death Fleet. Overwhelm their defenses. No amount of preparation can withstand our full might. Krex's vertical pupils narrowed. No, that is exactly what they expect. We must adapt, as they have. For the first time, we must think like prey to defeat these predators in prey's clothing. On Earth, the United Defense Council had expanded to include representatives from the Centauri Coalition and other refugee species who had fled Malkari expansion. The chamber beneath Geneva now housed a diversity of life forms united by a common threat. Admiral Chen stood before the assembled delegates. The initial engagement was successful, but it was merely a prelude. Our intelligence suggests the Malkari are regrouping for a major offensive. We've bloodied their nose. Now they'll come at us with everything they have. Dr. Nakamura presented the latest findings from the recovered Malkari biotechnology. Their ships function as extensions of their own biology. Neural interfaces connect the crew directly to ship systems. It's elegant but presents vulnerabilities we can exploit further. Dr. Maya Patel continued, Project Chimera is now operational. We've successfully integrated the engineered bacteriophages into our missile systems. One direct hit can compromise their biological ship components within minutes. Professor Ibrahim Sato, head of TENUP Psychology, raised a concerned hand. We should consider what happens after we defeat this incursion. The Malkari have never experienced significant resistance, let alone defeat. Their entire social structure is built around predatory dominance. We may be creating an even greater threat by challenging that hierarchy. One problem at a time, Professor, General Washington replied. First, we survive. Then we worry about their psychological adjustment. Ambassador Chloral of the Centauri delegation rose, his crystalline form catching the light. You humans continue to astonish us. In less than a decade of knowing about threats beyond your solar system, you've prepared defenses that our civilizations couldn't develop in centuries. How is this possible? Admiral Chen's expression remained neutral, but a hint of pride crept into his voice. Humanity has always been both predator and prey. We evolved watching the shadows for threats while simultaneously being those shadows for others. More importantly, we've spent centuries imagining threats from beyond our world. Science fiction, war games, theoretical defense scenarios. We've been preparing for this moment since before we knew it would come. 2 months later, the Malkari launched their full-scale invasion. This time, they came not with a small hunting party, but with a fleet of over 200 bioships, advancing in a formation designed to overwhelm Earth's defenses through sheer numbers. What they encountered instead was a solar system transformed into an intricate defense network. The asteroid belt had been weaponized, with mass drivers capable of launching precision kinetic strikes. Jupiter's moons hosted automated defense platforms that launched waves of drones carrying the engineered bacteriophages. Even Earth's moon had been converted into a fortress, with underground bunkers housing both human and refugee allies coordinating the defense. War primate Crex personally led the vanguard, his flagship Inevitable Consumption pushing through the outer defenses despite taking heavy damage. Their preparation is impressive. He acknowledged to Hunt Second Vrel as another explosion rocked their ship, but they cannot have anticipated everything. New reading. The sensory technician called out, detecting unusual energy signatures from Earth's orbit. They're deploying something new. From specially designed hangars around Earth, humanity revealed its ultimate countermeasure, Project Chimera. Hybrid vessels combining human engineering with adapted Malkari biotechnology, piloted by neural-linked human crews who had trained specifically to outthink their predatory opponents. Captain Layla Sharma felt her consciousness expand as she linked with her Chimera vessel, the neural handshake allowing her to feel the ship as an extension of her own body. Around her, 50 other Chimera pilots did the same, forming a neural network that allowed them to coordinate with near-perfect synchronization. Chimera Squadron, engage at will. Admiral Chen's voice came through the neural link. Show them what happens when humans decide to hunt. The Chimera vessels moved with a fluidity that matched the Malkari bioships, but with a level of coordination the individualistic predators had never achieved. Where Malkari captains fought for personal glory, the human pilots functioned as a unified force, setting up tactical situations that forced the enemy into carefully prepared kill zones. Aboard the Inevitable Consumption, Crex watched in growing horror as his fleet was systematically dismantled. They've adapted our own technology, he growled. Impossible. War primate. Vrel's voice held an unfamiliar emotion. Fear. They're not just using our technology. They're improving upon it. Our neural links connect one captain to one ship. Theirs are connecting their entire fleet into a single coordinated entity. The battle reached its climax as the Chimera Squadron converged on the Inevitable Consumption. Captain Sharma led the assault, her ship dancing through defensive fire with inhuman precision. For Earth and all the worlds you've destroyed, she transmitted to the Malkari flagship before launching the final salvo of biologically engineered missiles. The weapons penetrated the flagship's weakened defenses, injecting their payload directly into the vessel's organic systems. The effect was immediate and devastating. The biological components of the Malkari flagship began to deteriorate, neural pathways shutting down as the engineered phages attacked specific cellular structures. Systems failed cascadingly, leaving the once mighty vessel drifting and vulnerable. In the chaos, Crex made his final decision. Prepare the escape vessel, he ordered Vrel. The hunt has failed. We must return to the homeworld with what we've learned. And what have we learned, War Primate? Vrel asked as they hurried toward the escape pod. Crex's expression was solemn. That we are no longer the apex. For all our biological superiority, these humans possess something more dangerous, the ability to think beyond their own experience, to prepare for threats they've never faced, and to turn weakness into strength. They are not just predators or prey. They are something new entirely. As the Malkari fleet retreated in disarray, humanity and its allies began the process of rebuilding. Admiral Chen stood once again before the United Defense Council, now expanded to include representatives from worlds formerly under Malkari control. This victory doesn't end here, Chen stated firmly. The Malkari will return, possibly with new adaptations. But more importantly, there are other threats out there, some perhaps even more dangerous. Humanity must continue to prepare, to imagine the unimaginable, and to build our defenses not just for the known but for the possible. Ambassador Floral addressed the assembly. The galaxy has witnessed something unprecedented. A species that, despite being technologically younger than most, has defeated the most feared predators in known space. The Galactic Concord wishes to formally invite Earth to take a leadership role in our defensive alliance. Admiral Chen exchanged glances with General Washington and the other human leaders before responding. Earth accepts this responsibility, but with a condition. We do not seek to dominate, as the Malkari did. Instead, we offer to share our perspective, our unique ability to imagine threats before they materialize, to prepare defenses before the attack comes. In the months that followed, the remnants of the Malkari invasion force limped back to their home system, carrying with them a warning that spread rapidly through their hierarchical society. For the first time in their evolutionary history, the apex predators had encountered a species they could not simply hunt and consume, a species that had studied them from afar and prepared a counterhunt before the first Malkari ship had even entered their system. Aboard a new command ship, reclaimed from the wreckage of their defeat, war primate Krex, now bearing the unprecedented title of war strategist, addressed a changed conclave. "We must learn from these humans," he declared to shocked guests. "Not to become like them, but to understand how they think, how they prepare. For millennia, we have relied on our evolutionary advantages, our strength, our speed, our natural weapons. But these humans have shown us that true survival depends on something else entirely, the ability to adapt not just physically, but mentally." The galaxy watched with trepidation and hope as humanity established itself as a new power, not through conquest or domination, but through their unique capacity to imagine threats, prepare defenses, and transform weaknesses into strengths. The species that had spent its evolutionary history being both predator and prey had emerged as something else entirely, protectors who understood both the hunt and the hunted. In his private quarters aboard the UES Defiance, Admiral Chen reviewed reports from the expanding defensive network now spanning multiple star systems. Commander Reyes entered with the latest intelligence. "The Malkari are rebuilding, but differently," she reported. "They're establishing defensive perimeters rather than hunting grounds. They're learning from us." Chen nodded thoughtfully. "And the other powers beyond Centauri space? Watching. Some with interest, others with concern. Our reputation precedes us now." "Good," Chen replied, gazing out at the stars that no longer seemed quite so empty or threatening. "Let them watch, let them wonder, and let them remember that humanity stands ready. Not because we are the strongest or the most advanced, but because we've spent our entire existence preparing for threats we've never seen." The lesson of the Malkari encounter spread throughout known space, that the most dangerous species in the galaxy wasn't the strongest or the most naturally gifted with weapons, but the one that had spent millennia imagining threats from the stars long before they knew such threats existed. Humanity had brought something new to the galactic stage, the understanding that imagination, preparation, and adaptability were ultimately more powerful than any natural weapon evolution could provide.